Welcome, kids, to today's class. It's nice having you around. I hope you are enjoying your weekend. This class promises to be educative. In our last class, we talked about sleep and conditions necessary for sleep. So, today's class, we are talking about first aid. So, get your writing materials and pay attention. What is first aid? It is the first medical treatment given to a person who is injured or someone who suddenly becomes sick. When someone is injured or suddenly becomes sick, that first treatment you give the person is known as first aid. And this is important because it brings relief to the person before the person arrives at the hospital and see a doctor. So when someone is injured, if you don't give the person any treatment before you rush the person down to the hospital, before you see a doctor, the person must have lost a lot of blood. So you give first aid to make the person feel calmer, stop the bleeding, or to reduce the illness to an extent before you now finally see the doctor. There's a person known as a first aider. A first aider is someone that is trained to give first aid. So a person trained to give first aid is called a first aider. So when you see those persons, you call them first aider. We usually see a first aider with his or her first aid box or kit. Now, that first aid box contains special materials and medicine that the first aider use to administer his or her treatment. So a first aider is always with his or her first aid box. It's just the way you see a farmer always with his cutlass. When you open a first aid box or a first aid kit, what do you expect to see? Is it biscuit and ice cream? Of course not. You'll see bandages. The first aider usually uses it for treatments, especially when there is a cut. You also see scissors, different kind of scissors in fact. Then you also get to see your plasters, different plasters for injuries. Then painkillers, they are kind of drugs that reduces the pain. Then you also see the iodine solution, the methylated spirits, and you also find your disinfectants. You also have the cotton wool, the gentian violet, different hand gloves, because the hand glove they use for one person, they wouldn't use it for another person. And you also have your ointments and your embrocation. These are some of the things you find in a first aid box or a first aid kit. Now we'll be talking about the conditions that require first aid treatment. The first is bleeding. Bleeding usually occurs when there's a loss of blood from a cut in any part of the body, and we can either cut our hand or we may be playing and we may just stomp over a stone and it may result in bleeding, so we need first aid. The next is fainting. Now the person may be passing out. Because the person is fainting, we quickly get a first aider to attend to that person. We may be walking and we use our leg to hit the table or even the wall, we scrape our back on the wall, may result in bruises and we need first aid treatment. When we have muscle strain or what we usually call muscle pull, we need first aid treatment. Now, muscle strain usually occur when we forcefully stretch our muscles, and this forceful stretch may now result in that part of the body, can be the leg, the ankle, the waist. It will be swollen and it is very painful. So when this happens, we need first aid, and after the first aid treatment has been given to us, we now feel better. Bone fracture is another condition necessary for first aid. Bone fracture occurs when a person's bone is broken it's usually very, very painful. The person may not even be able to lift the affected area. So at that moment, now see the first aiders will come, take the person and treat the person. A person that's exhausted needs first aid, and this person is very tired due to stress or long exercise, especially when the weather is hot rather. Now the person needs first aid treatment. I remember when I was in camp, we were doing our exercise. The weather was so hot and I was exhausted, so it was the first aider that actually helped me. If not, it would have almost led to fainting. The next is heat. Prickly heat occurs when we expose our body to too much heat. It will leave red or black spots on our skin, and when this happens, we need first aid treatments. The last we are discussing for today is electric shock. This may occur as a result of handling faulty electrical wire or using electrical appliances wrongly. When this happens, the person needs first aid. So now we've come to the end of today's topic. I know you've learned a lot. Please remain safe. I love you and bye.